Are you ready?
Coming up on this episode of PFM Adventures After Dark, we look back to this year's WrestleMania 40 and what took me from not knowing anything about wrestling to a fan. Welcome to episode 10 of PFM Adventures After Dark. I'm Alicia. As always, I'm joined by the co-host of the show, my one and only human, and my future husband, Jason. I guess we're going to have to add a live professional wrestling event to our ever-growing list of things to do when we're out on the road. We'll get to my story in a minute, but do you remember your first started?
Do I remember what?
I don't know what I'm saying. Do you remember when you first started watching wrestling?
I do, actually. So my first question before we get into that is next week's episode 11. What are you going to do? You're out of fingers.
I will borrow your fingers. Finger?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We could do 10 plus
Oh,
1.
you know what I could do? I could just hold up a sign.
Like a ring girl.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do remember wrestling. So here's my story. So I was born in 1975, and I think that the first time that I saw anything wrestling, to the best of my knowledge, was around maybe 1980 or 1981. And I remember being at my grandparents' house. I spent a lot of time there. I'll get into that in a little bit. But there was, to the best of my recollection, a steel cage and two bloody white-haired men. Now, obviously, I'm a white-haired man at this point. It doesn't mean they were old men. They were bleach blonde, back in the day wrestlers. And, of course, they were in a cage match. And back then, it was just blood and guts and gore and everything. So, for some reason, as uncomfortable as I am with blood and things like that, I was drawn to bloody men
Blood?
with pink hair because the blood had bleached their hair. So, anyways, that's what I remember of wrestling. But as time went on, about 5 years later, so now I'm like age 9, 10, 11, somewhere in that range in the mid 80s, wrestling became really, really big. And for anybody who's not a wrestling fan, there were basically two major promotions that would put on wrestling. There was the WWF. We'll get into that controversy later on, and then there was the NWA, and there was a lot of mystique in wrestling to me as a kid, and essentially a lot of people get into comic books and things like that, and this was my comic book, so to speak. So the addiction to that uncomfortable feeling that wrestling gave me, which basically was like it was almost like an uneasy feeling. I can't quite describe it, but I was addicted to it. So that's kind of the beginning part of it.
Do you have a delicious beverage?
Megan!
Oh my goodness, we can't go any further with the show until we pause for our beer review. So Alicia, we do have some beer, right?
Oh, you said beer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Ah,
We have beer. So another one of our local beers for us is what we have today. So we found one called Rebellion Red Lager. And this is made by Yellowhammer Brewing, which is in Huntsville, Alabama. It's about an hour north. And this beer is 5.4% ABV. And it's described on their can as on the website as inspired by a German brewing tradition, but also a true American hybrid. So this beer blends German imported malts and domestic hops for a crisp, malty lager.
so let's take a look at the can. For those of you watching the video version,
Yeah,
this
so
is
the
a pretty
cans,
can, right?
yeah, it's kind of fun. Did you notice the little bird at the top right here?
I did.
It looks like a hieroglyphic bird, I think.
And the reason I can tell you that is that's on every one of their cans.
I never noticed it before until now.
Yep, I noticed that earlier when I was doing the research about the beer, and they put it at the top, of every one of the cans. So it must be part of their logo, or it is their logo. But I like this can.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, but it's also, I don't want to say cheesy, that's the wrong word, but the color, like with the red and the gold, it reminds me of like something, but I just can't put my finger
College
on
football.
it. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
It looks
Maybe so,
college
college
football-y.
football.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's got the Yellowhammer bird, which is the state bird.
Yeah. And then on the back side, it's got that same logo. I'm turning it around so anybody who's watching, I'm looking at the can and you're not looking at the can. So here, I'll just keep spinning the can for everybody watching the video version.
Spinning.
But there's that whole spiel that you just read there, except there's one extra line on the can. It says Rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Rebellion does not conform to style.
So there.
That's kind of cool.
So let's crack this thing open.
That goes on a t-shirt.
It was almost in unison.
That was.
That's pretty good. Do you need it turned up for those? That's funny.
That's better.
That's pretty funny.
Pouring.
I like the verbal.
beer.
I like the non-verbal cue. That was great.
Well, I was trying. Okay, so if you're not watching here, I realize I can't hardly hear anything through my headset. So I'm Alicia sign languaging Jason to turn it up a little bit so that I can hear what's going on.
Okay, so I just realized that this is a red beer in a red can.
Mm-hmm. It smells good.
Does it? Oh, it does smell good. I'm excited.
I have not had a red lager in a super long time.
Nope. Probably at least a few months since we had anything that was even red in color, and I don't even know if that wasn't a lager. So
Yeah.
all right.
I'm not getting like a full smell. Like it just smells really light to me.
It does. Yeah. There's something there.
And I almost want to think I smell apple, but I don't know if it's my brain because of the color, but I kind of smell like an apple.
Leaves.
Right, I'm going in for it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do some.
It's a nice color.
To running out of fingers. But
Let's
you're going to have to
go.
use mine next week for episode 10.
Oh, that tastes nice.
Oh, that does taste nice.
It is very good. It's got a good full flavor to it, but also with the crisp. Like the aftertaste is really, really light.
Yeah.
The crispy.
It's
what do you
very
taste?
light going in, and then it's just got a nice smooth finish. It's not.
Yeah, it's like light going in, but full when you swallow, and then light
and it's still there.
for the finish.
Like it's still lingering on the tongue. It's a nice, pleasant taste. Do you get any specific notes? Our non-educated beer palates?
Yeah, my non-educated palate. I don't know. It tastes like a red lager, but I can almost taste like the German fusion in with it. So it's really difficult to describe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the fullness comes in, like kind of in the middle when you're swallowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So the taste is good. The aftertaste is good. There's nothing unpleasant at all about this. I feel like I don't know if this is a summer beer.
I think it's kind of an in-between.
Yeah, I think so. Like
You can go
springtime,
with spring or fall.
spring or fall. Yeah, I would agree. Would you pair it with a pizza?
I would pair anything with a pizza, but this makes me, and maybe it's the German flair on it, but those big Bavarian pretzels
Yep.
with the beer cheese dip, that would go excellent with it.
I'm glad you said. I was literally thinking I would need a pretzel right now.
Yeah, with the salt,
Yep.
or maybe even, I'm kind of thinking like the beer cheese dip, but mustard would be pretty good too. But I'm really leaning toward the beer cheese dip.
That's an absolute perfect call. That is pretzel.
Pretzel. I'm going to go make pretzels. I'll be right back. Just kidding.
Nice. Side note, eventually we will get some merch that is PFM Adventures specific, including Pair It With a Pizza. I got a design out for Pair It With a Pizza. It's going to probably sit there for 3 or 4 months. I'll probably tell you about it 100 times. And eventually it'll be available. And Mom will be wearing it on the show every week. But we love that phrase, Pair It With a Pizza. Would you buy this again?
I definitely would buy this again. I'm excited that we have a few more left in the fridge.
Yep.
I like it.
On the way to Buffalo, we will have to stop in Huntsville and thank the fine folks at Yellowhammer Brewing. Yellowhammer Brewing. It's Yellowhammer Brewing, yes.
Brewing.
Not
ING.
No brewing company, not brewery, but their website is Yellowhammer Brewery, but they're Yellowhammer.
Is their website brewery?
Yep.
No. Yellowhammer Brewing.
Well, that's interesting.
.com.
Because actually it's Yellowhammer Brewery.
Well,
I don't
it says
know.
on the can
It's
brewing.
so confusing.
Maybe it started off one way and then they swapped it, and then now if you go to one, it just goes to the other.
We've done that confusing thing
with
ourselves. But the bottom line is Yellowhammer. If you're looking to,
it's good. Just
pick
do
this
it.
up. Put that in the cart.
Put it in the cart.
I'm stealing people's
Dave.
lines. Yeah. All right. So now that we got our beer, let's get back into it. So, so here's my story. Right. I would go to my grandparents' house every weekend. From about age 4 or 5 till I was about 12 or 13 or so. And I mean, every weekend, like grew up with my grandparents on the weekend. And so at 6:05 p.m. Eastern time on Superstation TBS, or whenever the Atlanta Braves baseball game ended, there would be this dark, dirty clip of wrestling that would come on. And it was the intro to the show. And it was like a prelude of something significant that had happened, at an arena somewhere. And like I said before, it had this really dark, dirty, just gritty kind of feeling to it. And that really attracted me and got me addicted just as much as the bright, fanfare, fun, floofy version of wrestling that was on the other program, which was the WWF. Now, we can't call them the WWF anymore because there's
bad word.
Yeah, because there's this big giant controversy that happened in, I think it was the 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s. I can't remember when it was, but the World Wildlife Federation got mad and put a kibosh to the WWF, and that's why they're now WWE, for those of you who don't know that. But
yeah, and what's interesting to me, Jason's kind of got me into some documentaries, but beside that, like it's funny because this is such a thing. I noticed they bleep it out. Like even in documentaries, they're like, when we were part of beep.
Yeah.
But you know what you're saying? Like that's
a
strong no.
strong legalities going on there.
Yeah.
It's silly to me, but so, and I'm going to give you the floor back here in a second, but the rest of the story is so and I really shortcutted that. I kind of wanted to almost expound on it more, but if you're a wrestling fan, you know, and if you're not, there's kind of an overview basically. So then, if you're watching, the other thing that was fun for me was a wrestling program called Saturday Night's Main Event, and I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. We haven't gotten into that in your wrestling education here yet. But when everybody else was waiting for Saturday Night Live to come on, I waited for the weekends when SNL was replaced by wrestling. And yes, that actually happened.
Really?
Like Saturday Night Live, born in 1975, just as I was and is still one of the most consistent running programs of all time, right? I mean, at 11:30 there was a time in the mid 80s that wrestling preempted Saturday Night Live. It was that big.
That's crazy.
That they, and that's why, fast forward to all these years later, that's why Peacock, NBC, still has the WWE network, because all those years later, they were still very connected to wrestling. And,
I see.
Yep. So
interesting. I didn't know that.
But yeah, so there was, that Saturday Night Live program. So I would try to stay up. I would usually, all right, so I'm going to get like ridiculously embarrassing to myself here. So I would stay up, and if you were a kid in the 80s, you were probably a big Hulk Hogan fan, right? And I would stay up, and typically they would run those shows differently. Like the main event would kind of come on first. It was kind of backwards from what you'd normally see. So the Hulk Hogan match, thankfully for a kid, was like one of the first ones that was on. And I would get nervous.
You get nervous?
I mean, literally nervous, to the point where I was like scared that something was going to happen to my wrestling hero.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, it was bad.
Like sweaty palms.
Yeah, like I had issues, anyways, but it's embarrassing. But yeah, so that's kind of how that went. So, and then all right, so then there's one more story. But first, a sip of beer.
Beer.
So I had this long mat, and I think it was green. And as I think back, this mat, I believe, was, if you remember the 1980s, 70s, 60s, who knows what decade, because it probably was 20 or 10 or whatever years old, patio furniture that had the curve,
I know what you're talking about.
the curve foam cushion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that became my wrestling mat. So instead of a wrestling mat being a square like wrestling is, I had this big long rectangle because, I'm a kid and I don't have the funds to build a wrestling mat, nor do I now. So I would set up this wrestling mat, and I had a bunch of pillows so that at least it would cushion the blow, right? And I told you earlier, we have had this discussion about pains and as we're getting older and all this stuff, and how I've never thankfully broken a bone, knock on wood. And I don't know how I didn't, because I would jump onto this narrow thing and do all kinds of wrestling moves and drop out. So I had this, I'm all over the place with my story. So I think my grandparents found this gigantic pillow, and then to make it heavier so that it felt like an actual person or a wrestler, it got stuffed with, I don't know what, anything. It was all soft stuff, but who knows? Maybe they put a brick in there to, weigh it down. I don't know. And I would body slam it and suplex it and, do all these things and imitate the moves on wrestling and run from the kitchen through the little miniature hallway and dive onto it. And this went on for, I don't know. I was crazy.
But did you do
I wish
this?
there was footage.
Did you do this in your underwear, like pretending that it was your wrestling costume?
That's a valid question. That's a very valid question.
I imagine you just in your little whitey tidy underwear, like that's your Hulk Hogan costume or whatever, and some long socks because the knee-high socks were a thing.
So
I feel like you did that. I can see that in my mind.
I'm gonna go with no on that, but here's. Oh, see, I didn't even think about this. I didn't even think about putting this into the notes, but now you've drawn it out of me.
Ooh.
So, look up Brutus the Barber Beefcake was the first wrestler that I know that used to do weird things with his tights. Mm-hmm. And I thought it would be cool to do that with clothing. And when I say weird things, okay, so you have your jeans that you have your legs showing through because they're all professionally done with the
ripped jeans.
With the ripped jeans, yeah, thank you. But I cut up some of my clothing and yeah, so I may have cut one too high and I had like an ass cheek hanging out.
Wait, were you out in the yard wearing that thing?
No, I probably went to work. No, just kidding.
Oh, that's even better. I wish I was there. I would have watched that.
But
I missed out.
That's embarrassing. This makes me feel better about being nervous about Hulk Hogan because now my ass is hanging out of fake wrestling tights. And wrestling tights are tight. These are just pajamas, so God only knows what was happening in my world.
A boy's got to do what a boy's got to do.
He does?
Sure.
Okay.
You were here for it. Can we be here for it again? I'll make you the pillow, the human pillow thing.
Oh, the problem is if I take a fall at this age, I may not get up.
You'll get up.
I mean, I was pretty good at. Then there's more stories. Now you really got me going, and I'm going to spin this around in a second to you. But so my mom's basement. My friend Chris and I, Chris the musician, shout out to Chris Maloney. If anyone is ever near Chris Maloney when he is playing live music, which that would either be typically in Buffalo or the very, very southern tip of Florida in the wintertime. So he might be down there now. Go see him. He's
amazing.
He's amazing. So anyway, so my friend Chris and I, all the way back to 15, 16 years old, we would go in my mom's basement and either play music, which he clearly was better at than I was, or we would jump off the basement stairs onto. Okay, do you remember the foam? Do you remember like a fold-out bed that was made strictly out of foam?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We had. It wasn't even ours.
They're not very thick.
It was the people that lived down. No, they're not very thick. It was the people that lived downstairs from us. It was their foam couch. So somehow again we had a giant. Oh no! This time, because I'm older and a little bit wiser, instead of just having a pillow that's weighted down, I took an old sweatshirt. We sewed it together and stuffed it. So now we have an actual, almost like a body.
Oh.
So a
And how old
sweatshirt
were
and
you
sweatpants.
at this point?
Way too old to be doing this. Big dork. Thank God dorks became hot later.
This
Should I
is
pause?
great.
Anyways.
Yes.
So, doing?
Looking at your muscle.
Oh. Do you need a magnifying glass?
No.
Okay.
Anyway.
But anyways, so basement stairs, typically, 9 to 10 stairs high. My challenge, of course, was you've got, you're jumping down the basement stairs. This particular basement was stairs go down, corners on your left, and everything else opens up to the right. That's how this was set up. So the foam couch was just below the stairs. So we would jump from step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6. I think I actually performed a jump to the couch onto the wrestling dummy from probably the 8th step. Now, again,
that's crazy.
Remember that it's not just the jump. It's you got to clear
the head thing.
the head.
There's always the head thing.
Yeah, the stairwell. Because the other stairs are up
it's like
above.
the floor, yeah.
So that was dumb, but we did that. And then there was rubber wrestlers. Do you remember the rubber wrestlers? You might remember the rubber wrestlers.
I do, because I have a brother that's 6 years older than me, and I don't know where we'd get them, but they were like some of them were kind of older. They were heavy.
Yes.
And they hurt like hell when you got hit upside the head with one. We would get in a fight and just like, I remember whacking my brother with Hulk Hogan one time.
Yeah, and he was
mad.
Hulk
And
Hogan was posed like this, and his knees
Yeah.
were bent. Yep, he came with the cool belt.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, they probably weighed like a good, I feel like 2 or 3 pounds.
Oh, they
For like
were
this,
solid
I don't
rubber.
know, 6 or 8 inch figure.
Yeah, they were solid rubber,
Mhm.
and they had arms that were sticking out and doing poses and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So we would use those to. Oh my God, this is really just. I'm not looking at any script because this is just me reminiscing about my childhood. So I'm sorry if this is boring,
great.
rambling on. But my stepfather had a. They were all into weightlifting, and so he had a workout bench downstairs. You can clearly see I didn't use it, but we would put the wrestlers up on the one pedestal where you would put your weightlifting bar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that has a technical name, but you put the wrestler up there, and then we'd take the other rubber wrestlers and we'd throw them at him. And I don't know what we were trying to do, but whatever. And that was also fun until they wound up in the sump pump, because there was a sump pump in the basement. So then you're picking and yeah, exactly. And rubber wrestlers that weigh 2 pounds of solid thick rubber do not float.
No,
So speaking of that,
they don't
side note,
float.
if you want to know what floats, is it too early to talk about August the 9th?
It's never too early.
All right. If you want to know what floats in a bathtub, join us on our live stream, August the 9th. Just keep one eye on our socials, and you will find out about that.
Also, it may be outside.
It could be outside.
So you guys,
weather dependent, and
they may be able to suggest items to test for flotation.
that's true. This is going to get ugly.
Yeah, we're going to be out of control.
I think this is my last wrestling story, or wrestling childhood story.
Wrestling.
But the other thing, back to the rubber wrestlers, was we would go to Chris's house, and I've told you this story before, I believe. We would go to Chris's house, and he had a ceiling fan, like the one up above us here. And Chris thought it was a great idea to see how long it would take a thick 2 to 3 pound rubber wrestler to fly off of the ceiling fan while you're in the room with him.
Oh,
but that
sounds
wasn't
dangerous.
enough.
So dangerous.
No, it's not dangerous. It's not dangerous at all.
Take an eye
until you put nails in them.
out.
Because that's what we did. So, turn off the ceiling fan. Put like 3 or 4 rubber wrestlers up there. First of all, I don't know how they didn't ruin the fan.
Yeah. Well, you maybe had them balanced out, like one on each blade.
Yeah.
So then all the blades were just sagging with the nail-infested figures.
And then,
How do you guys have eyeballs?
well, and the answer to that is plastic laundry basket.
Oh,
That's what we
your
hid
shield.
behind. We hid behind a shield.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they came faster than the plastic laundry basket. I think that one of them pierced the plastic laundry basket, so then Chris's mom was mad. And I actually remember one of them hitting the blinds and thank God it had blinds because it would have went right through the damn window. So this is the best part about being a kid. Like I really wish there was.
We can do that as an adult.
We could.
Here's the thing about an adult: you do what you want, and you're not going to get in trouble.
I really wish there was footage for that.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. Don't you wish there was like, because you grew up.
Should we reenact that?
But then we're gonna have to buy another ceiling fan, and
We have safety goggles out in the bus.
That's true. That's true. But do you remember things as a kid? Like I'm rambling again. But do you remember things as a kid that don't you wish you like? Okay, I'm trying to do the age thing here now because you're a little younger than I am, but like nothing got videotaped when we were kids.
Oh
so
yeah, for sure. But
nothing got videotaped.
That would be cool to go back and see some of the, some of the crazy things that we did. My brother and I did some crazy stuff.
But being able to tell this story, and this is what I love about, for those of you watching the video, I mean, we don't have rubber wrestlers obviously flying around our heads up above.
We could.
And even though you're watching us, or if you're listening to the audio version, you still have to place this thought into your mind and envision what this is like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But really would have been great to see this on video, like if somebody had a secret camera set up somewhere.
That would be crazy.
So those are some of my memories that I had to share because my history of wrestling goes back to early childhood, and I went way off script in doing this. But
I love it.
for you, Alicia, you just learned about wrestling in the past month or so. So
yeah,
what happened and by the way, that word is peaked. I had written it in there as P-E-A-K-E-D, and this
what
is
are you talking about?
I just learned this. I just learned a new word. I'm 48 years old and I'm learning. What happened that piqued your curiosity and interest? This is like the word. Here's another embarrassing moment from childhood. I spelled the word drawer, D-R-A-W-E-R, and I'm good at spelling actually.
Mm-hmm.
D-R-O-A-R. Once upon a time in my life.
I mean, it seems kind of right.
That's not. It's embarrassing. But anyways, the word peaked, P-I-Q-U-E-D. Did you know that word? I mean, I know the word, but did you know
yeah,
that's how
I'm familiar
with
it, but I don't really use it in my vocabulary in that manner.
Yeah, I'm excited about this word. So,
You
anyways,
learned.
I'm learning.
Great job.
What piqued your curiosity and interest about wrestling besides me just completely jamming it down your throat?
Yeah, no, it was pretty much you. Because honestly, I thought wrestling, I didn't understand. I'm in Alabama. Wrestling is popular here. Like, everybody likes their wrestling. No joke. But I just didn't understand anything. I literally thought, well, this is just a bunch of like gross, sweaty men wearing Speedo like underwear, wrestling, like pinning each other down and doing the moves. I didn't know there were stories.
You thought it was real?
Well, no, I knew that it was like they predicted like who was going to win the match, but that's all I really knew. Like gross, sweaty men wrestling with no clothes on, and you already know who wins the match. That's all I knew. So I didn't understand that there's like this whole storyline and things like that. And then like when you look at it, you don't really think, well, these people are people and have lives and blah, blah. So what really got me into it was the first documentary you had me watch, which was Cody Rhodes. No, it was his dad.
No, it was Cody. It was Cody.
Did we watch him first or his dad first?
No, because you haven't watched the dad. I actually thought about having you watch that one because it ties things together.
Okay,
but,
that's right. That's right.
Yep.
So anyway, now I know his story and I like him. Cool dude. And to like understand like where he came from and how he worked hard to get where he is. And then also you start learning a little bit more. That was the first one I watched. I was learning a little bit more about the acting. Like these people are actors. So, but they are athletic because obviously, like you've got to lift people up and actually do things and jump around all nimbly bimbly or whatever. So I was like, okay, this is cool. So I got into it and I was like, all right. And then that was when we watched some wrestling matches. I forget which ones on YouTube or whatever, but I was like, okay, well, this is kind of fun. But I did notice the people are wet, like from sweat before they even come out and wrestle, and their hair will be wet. But by the time the match is done, their hair's dry. But anyway, the next one I watched was really fun. So you had me watch Ric Flair. I'm sorry, I had no idea who Ric Flair was. I didn't know. I knew nothing.
Probably one of the most famous wrestlers of all time. Like you talk about Rick, Hulk Hogan. Like if you don't know anything about wrestling, name 3 wrestlers that you legit would at least have heard of without knowing anything about wrestling.
Yeah, not Ric Flair, but I knew Hulk Hogan. I knew Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yep.
And then I had heard of
this other guy.
The Rock.
Yeah, that other guy who's the biggest
and John
actor
Cena.
on Earth.
I knew about them, but they've also like veered off into like acting land. So I think that's where I kind of learned about them. Like John Cena, who's that? Oh, that's a wrestler. Okay, cool. But Ric Flair, he is the man. He's like 70 something now, I think.
73.
And he still parties. And he
Okay.
has still spends a lot of money and does things.
Before you tell your Ric Flair story, though,
he still loves women.
He does. I want to hear your version because you got Ric Flair details, which is fun. But what did I tell you to Google, and you'd find Ric Flair?
Oh, it was the woo.
How do you? Can you back away from the mic and give us?
Do I
your
have
best?
to back it up?
Oh yeah, because it's. I mean, you don't have to, but you just.
All right. My name is Ric Flair, and I bought this $6,000 suit just for this interview. Woo! Let's go.
That's awesome.
Give me a drink. It is it's 8 p.m. It's time for the cranberry and vodka.
Yeah, continue on with your Ric Flair story. It's a great story.
It really is. I don't know how he's alive.
He doesn't know either.
And that was like the craziest thing. He went through some really sad times too, but he pushed through because he just really portrayed Ric Flair. He is Ric Flair. I don't think he knows who he actually is anymore. Besides that, which is actually can be kind of sad, But
at 73, I don't think he cares. I don't think he legit
I don't
cares.
think he cares, but I don't know how he's alive. I mean, he's been like struck by lightning. His whole body's
he
like
didn't get struck by
shut
lightning.
down.
The guy in front of him.
Oh, the guy in front of him did. That's right. But his whole body like shut down. He was like almost dead in the hospital and
2017.
Yeah.
Yep. Plane crash, 1975.
Yeah, plane crash.
Why did all this bad shit happen in 1975?
I don't know.
Saturday Night Live. Okay, that's good.
Ric
Plane
Flair,
crash,
Ric
not
Flair's
good.
the man.
Jason Bourne, what's a waste of time. But, anyway, 1975. What a year.
Woo!
Woo!
So.
Or was he in 74? I don't remember the year. Okay, I might be wrong about the plane crash year, but anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and his daughter also wrestles.
Oh, Charlotte?
Yeah.
She's a future Hall of Famer.
I learned that.
You haven't even watched Charlotte's matches. She's amazing.
No, but I learned that from his documentary, and that was
Ashley is her real name.
So between Cody and Ric Flair, I was learning these are families that they're actually earn their spots though. They're not just hand it, here you go. They have to earn it. So anyway, that's really cool. But the next one that we watched was Bray Wyatt. That one was really sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was amazingly creative and such a good soul and good documentary. I think they put that together very, very nicely. I like how they used some of the old clips of him and got his voice in there and stuff. But that one was really sad.
Yeah. And again, that's a name that unless you're a current wrestling fan or somebody who followed forever and ever and ever, Bray Wyatt he passed away at 36 years old just last year. Actually, in August. It hasn't even been a year yet that he passed away of a heart condition at 36 years old. And it wasn't drug related. It wasn't anything. He was just... Yeah. Basically, he wasn't even if you looked at the dude, he was just a Kind of an overweight, regular dude.
Yeah, he looked like a little overweight but healthy, but also like to add to the sadness, like his best friend died of some lung condition that was not COVID related. So to see like two athletes like unfortunately pass away from like these types of health conditions, it's just like kind of makes you step back for a moment.
Yeah.
Because they were like healthy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they were so young.
And that's for me, I think, and I think for anybody who's like, we could get so deep into wrestling, and I'm not going to do that. But there's people who, because when I was a kid, the business was protected, and by protected I mean there's this thing. There's so many things. I got to shorten it, but there's this thing called kayfabe, and any wrestler who knows, or any wrestling fan who's been around knows what that means. It's the act. It's the part.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, look at that. and here we go. We got to see if we can get confetti and balloons and wrestling entrances. There we go. Rock on. You got to watch the video version because otherwise you don't see these ridiculous things that show up. Anyway. But the kayfabe part of it, you're doing it now. Anyways, the part of it that's at the end. Oh, you did it anyway. The hearts. Okay, I'll just let you keep going. But the part of it that was as a kid, it was mysterious. It was like a show. It was like a comic. It was supernatural. It was unrealistic. Now, there's another story in 1990 whatever, and then everybody saw behind the curtain, and then all of a sudden the fake real wrestling wasn't fake real wrestling anymore, and everybody thought the business was ruined because people got behind the scenes. And now, of course, we're in the modern era where everybody judges a wrestling match by its work rate and all this. It's like this stupid
metrics,
bullshit metrics that go on in the world.
It really is metrics. Because I was watching something the other day and they had mentioned, I think it was the Bray Wyatt documentary. They literally mentioned the word metrics.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. So no longer does it count if you're just a talented performer or a creative guy or whatever. You have to have a match that's work rate. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get into it. This is what old people do. They get mad. Anyways, but that's the cool thing about this is no matter which version or which generation you're from, as far as wrestling, the bottom line is we all know it's a work, as it's called, but behind the scenes there's real people doing this performance, and that's what's cool about these documentaries that you were talking about is you get to see, the real people. I mean, is Ric Flair an asshole because he's been married 4 times? Because, he, like many of them, partied and had bunches of women, whatever. Or
it's his life.
Or is there a story where you learn about this guy named Richard Flair, who's not even his real name, and his real name is, what was it, Dan Phillips or something like?
I don't remember.
And he was in the, what was it? I was going to say abortion. He was adoption.
Oh, that was the crazy part.
He doesn't even know who he is.
It started off insane. He was like in an illegal buy children here home.
Yep. So
I didn't even know that was a thing.
So anyways, we're getting too political, but it's cool. And that's the thing that I think that makes it interesting is that if you watch the stories, the stories become part of the story.
Yeah, it did for me. So that really got me watching it now. So now I want to watch it.
Yeah.
Because I'm understanding these people and their stories and a little bit more about everything, I guess.
So I know you didn't know there was storyline behind the athletics. That's one of the things that we were kind of noting about. And
yeah,
how about the women's wrestlers, real quick?
Okay, I'm dumb. I really knew nothing about wrestling. I had no idea that women were wrestlers as well. Had no idea.
Well, it doesn't make you dumb. It just makes you didn't know.
Dumb. But I didn't know because you turned on. I don't remember what it was, but it was women coming out first before men. And I was like, what the heck? There's women too? but they had cool costumes and also very athletic.
Yeah, I feel this is almost like fun. It's like an education that I get to give you throughout the decades as to
I'm enjoying it.
how they got there. But
I'm enjoying it.
nowadays they've main evented the matches, and again, I mean, you could easily get off track with political nonsense and whatever. The women wrestlers of today are doing the robotic thing and doing and some of them are, whatever, but there's always going to be somebody who stands out. You know what I mean? And there's always going to be the Charlotte Flairs who, regardless of her dad is Ric Flair or not, has done some amazing, awesome matches. Then there's the people that can't, there's always, and that's what's cool is that now we've got a bunch of just talented people doing cool stuff. Wrestling's actually gotten cool again in a way. So at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
So based on what you've seen so far, and I kind of had you watch a little bit of the original WrestleMania from 40 years ago in 1985 versus the big, giant, theatrical 70,000 people, 100,000 people, depending on where they're at. What did you like? What do you think about that contrast of then and now?
Yeah, it's definitely different. So it was a little more basic then, like when the wrestlers came out. Of course, everyone's cheering But now it's like you said, theatrical. Like there's all these lights and all the music and the build up, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know they all had their own theme songs too. So that kind of learned that, which that's kind of similar, but it's just way over the top with all the theatrical stuff.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I think I see as a overall wrestling fan, and now looking at the current product, I think I see, and this goes to Triple H, Paul Levesque. Now he's going by his real name. Who's the COO, whatever his title is. At age 50, I think we're going. He's trying to I feel like there's an attempt to make the matches important again, but still cater to everyone who needs entertainment. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing, but I think that the matches, they're trying. I think they're really trying to make them wrestling on top of just show.
Do you think that puts them actually in a difficult spot just because the way entertainment is now versus then?
God, yeah.
Because now everything in general is way more elaborate. So now you've got to have these creative stories and these creative characters, but like you said, like catering to what the audience wants. But our audiences, I think, are all over the place, for one thing. And then I think you got to cater to the individuals also.
The best,
because the way we are nowadays, like what's in it for them,
And again, I'm going to sidetrack and kind of to answer the question. So Ric Flair, as a wrestling character, right?
Can't help it.
Became a staple because he was so.
He was ahead of the game.
He was head of the game, but he was the head of the game too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was the man, and they put all of like one of the companies put all their weight on him. They put Hulk Hogan on it, and these guys stayed in the top spot or top 3 or 5 spots for a long, long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And in their own way, people were like, "Oh, who's going to take that guy out? Who's going to take that guy out?" You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like I can't think. Like the New England Patriots. If you're a football fan, who was ever going to beat Tom Brady for all those years? Everyone hated the New England Patriots and Tom Brady because they got so good that they had deflated footballs and all this other. I don't care if the football was deflated. I don't care anything. At some point, if you're that good, you're that good.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon,
Mm-hmm.
Richard Petty, all these, NASCAR. There's always somebody who's just there. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so what was cool about, or what became cool about wrestling now is that the best character to me that's come along in the last 10 years, besides CM Punk, who kind of they did the same thing, is Roman Reigns. They made that guy champion for 1,300 days or whatever, and that's like 3 or 4 years. And And in a world where everything has to be change, I want the next. More and more people got drawn to the fact that this guy was at the top of the heap and somebody had to take him down. And who was it going to be? And every time he thought somebody was going to take him down, he still stayed at the top.
Yeah.
And that is a better storyline and a more entertaining storyline, in my opinion, than constant change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe that's because I'm old, but...
Well, that makes sense, though, because it's like...
The thrill of the chase.
I don't watch soap operas, but it's like a soap opera.
It's definitely like a soap opera.
You know, like you're hanging on to this one consistent thing, and then it's probably like you as a child when you were nervous.
Yeah.
You're like,
my world's going to be
oh
upset.
my gosh, somebody's going to take my guy out.
Yeah.
And then when they don't, you're like, yeah. And, you know, for that long period, I wonder if anybody cried.
What happened?
When Roman Reigns lost the match.
Roman Reigns probably cried.
Like, I wonder if spectators cried.
Like, behind this, well,
he
okay,
did.
we'll get into that about the Undertaker streak.
He was caught after off camera crying. I read that.
Yeah.
But also, I missed his whole, like, Roman Reigns, the family bloodline rules things, because I didn't know anything about wrestling. So I just come in and Cody Rhodes, and I'm like, I know Cody Rhodes, so I'm just going for him, because he has a cool story. I know his story. And he won, so I was like, yay.
It's kind of
my
like
guy.
It's kind of like, you know, like if you're the champion for that long and you get knocked off, even if you're, let's say that they rewrite Roman Reigns to come back in 6 months and he's the champion,
Mm-hmm.
and Cody Reigns is just a transitional champion and whatever, and Roman's got another reign going on, you know, still at that moment, you're like, I got demoted. Because that's essentially what happened.
Yeah.
You got demoted. You are no longer the chosen one for a minute. You know what I mean? In that world. So he's as rich as hell. It doesn't matter, you know, all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you got a human being with a competitive spirit. And even if it's a script, you still lost your spot for a minute. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, whatever. But and speaking of Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, were you happy with the outcome of WrestleMania?
I was, because I only knew Cody and I really didn't know Roman, so I was excited. I wanted him to win. But I thought he was going to lose because, of course, the theatricals and the acting, like, every time you think he's out, he lifts his arm or his leg or whatever it is they do. So it was really, really fun.
You know that Cody lost to Roman Reigns last. This was this main event was the same main event last year.
So I did not know that.
Yep, and
Until
Cody lost.
Just this moment.
And Cody lost last year.
So even better, he really redeemed himself.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. So
good job, Cody Rhodes.
do you remember the match at all? Did you have any favorite parts of the match? And you just said lifting the arm and lifting the leg. Was there anything stood out to you about the match in particular, or?
Well, at first I was really confused because they were having like other people come
Everybody.
in, and I'm like, I thought there's only one person allowed, like in the ring, and,
Bloodline rules
and this and that. So anyway, that was like crazy, and then they went up in the audience and were beating each other up and all the things. There was a lot going on, so I don't know that I can pick a favorite part other than Cody winning.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely need to know the whole story to pick up on why these little things are happening. And then The Rock and John Cena with their side flab and their back flab.
I thought that was great because I was saying, "Let's go, grandpas." It was like grandpa and grandpa, but how cool of them being grandpa like age, but really they're probably not grandpa.
They're
age.
my
They're
age.
not that old.
John, they're
but
my
to
age.
still be able to get up and do that, that's actually inspiring.
Yeah. Oh,
I do good like standing up after I've been sitting in the floor for 5 minutes.
We'll get it. There's some guys that have hung on a little longer than they should have, but made careers into their 50s and almost 60s.
Yeah,
so.
I feel like Ric Flair will be the one that makes a comeback just for like one match. He's just going to show up at 75, 80 years old.
He does it every year.
And he's going to do a thing.
Speaking of that, and I'm going.
I don't know what they're
sidetrack
called,
again.
but he's going to
Yeah, he's gonna
body slam somebody.
Yeah. Do you remember me showing you the one clip of the Dudley boys, one of the Dudley boys putting Mae Young through the table. Mae Young was the 80-year-old lady.
Yes.
Yes. So,
that was crazy.
You know,
That's when I first learned a little bit about the women wrestling. But then we update it to the newer stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of them. Like, it's a lot more than what I thought that it was going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be 80 and put through a table, that's crazy.
Even
I have
if it's
no
a fake
words.
table, still taking
I don't
a fall.
care. You still get hoisted up in the air to some facet and.
Exactly. You don't even lift an 80-year-old off the ground at all.
I would no.
Let alone catapult them through the air.
No.
It's crazy.
That is...
that's one of the best moments. If no one is familiar with what we're talking about right now, go to the YouTubes, subscribe to our channel, like our channel. Okay, that was promotion, but go to our YouTubes, brother, and look up Mae Young, M-A-E Young, through a table. I'm sure every one of you who is a wrestling fan has seen it, but if you are not, she's been gone for 10, 5, 6, 7 some odd years now, but she was taking bumps, as we call as wrestling calls it, in her 80s. Nonsense.
Insane.
Crazy.
Absolutely insane.
So, what do you want to learn about next?
I think I'm just going to watch all of the documentaries. All of them. I'm kind of interested in watching some of the women ones.
Yeah.
So, does Charlotte have one?
I don't think yet, because she's still active enough.
Yeah.
But there will be a Charlotte Flair documentary for sure.
I'm too old now, but watching this makes me want to be a wrestler.
I feel like you would have been.
It makes me be like,
enough.
oh, I want to do this, but 40 years old, I think that's a little old to get into the business. But it seems fun. I get to wear like cool makeup and a costume, and then beat people up. Yes.
Fake beat people up though. You can't really beat them up.
Well, no, but you do have to be tough, and I'm tough.
You are tough. Yeah.
And you can still be strong and like, I don't know what it's called again. You body slam the people down.
I mean,
my move would be standing on the top rope, and I would flip, like back flip and swan dive, and pin them on the ground.
It's called a moonsault.
I don't know what it is.
I know. We'll keep it teaching you.
Okay, well, I would tweak it to make it even better somehow, some way.
I know you would. Plus, I mean, I might be biased, but
I just don't know what my
you
wrestler
look pretty
name would
sexy
be.
in a costume.
I want to do it now. I want to like go back in time and be a wrestler. Do they have like old people starting off wrestlers?
Yeah,
I want to do that.
They do, and they make it for one match, and then they don't go any further because.
Oh, not me. I'll go.
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
Pretty hardcore.
Just kidding.
No, I know. But so we talked about the characters. We talked about the different eras. We talked about the dance that they perform. We talked about all the fun stuff. Do you have any other thoughts or questions or anything that, without going super far off kilter, that I can answer for you in this segment, or that you have that I didn't talk on, or anything?
How many live events have you been to?
Oh, that's a valid question.
I really don't know this.
So I was dark, dank era. I was to one wrestling event in 1985, I think, or 6. And here's the thing about wrestling in 1985 or 86. They would tour, and they didn't bring all the top stars.
Mm-hmm.
You would go to an event, and it was the mid-card people, and the main event was like some tag team match with some upper-level mid-card guys, but you wouldn't see all of the superstars at the main events a lot of times back then in the local shows, because they weren't televised, and these guys were too important to be showing up at whatever. So I think it was 1985 or 86. I have a program in that little bin in there. I'll have to show it to you from a wrestling. Might have been 2. At the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium, no longer standing. It's where the Sabres used to play. That was demolished some years ago now to make for the ice skating rink that's now there. But yeah, so that was that. I was actually at the last event that was ever held at the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium was a wrestling event. I'm not gonna state incorrect facts, but I did see a Monday Nitro once. I was actually at I got to see a wrestling event in Toronto at the Maple Leaf Gardens, which I don't believe is standing anymore, and that's an iconic building where the Toronto Maple Leafs used to play. So the answer to your question is probably. I took Megan and Melanie a few years ago. I don't know, probably 6 or 7 over the years, but nothing on any grant. No, we were to a Monday Night Raw taping or a Monday Night Raw that came to Buffalo, maybe 7 or 8, not 10, but enough.
You'll make it to 10 then.
Yeah. We'll see one together. It'll be fun.
That will be fun.
That's a good question. What else you got?
That's all I got. I think we need to go watch more documentaries.
That's fair.
I don't know. Yeah, I want to watch a woman win.
Okay. I don't know. We'll have to look and see what's out there. But
yeah.
So
it'll be fun. So before we bring this episode to a close, let's go over the results of last week's X poll, because I'm going to ask. Last week, we took a fun virtual tour of the great city of Chicago, Illinois, with Dave Zalatoris from Beer in Front. And we asked what your favorite thing about Chicago is. And Jason, the results, please.
The results are I'm disappointed in our audience.
Uh-oh.
You guys are fired. We
Fired.
only had a couple people respond this week. But no, I know everybody's busy and everybody's got millions of polls showing up in their faces. But we only had a couple people respond this week. But the choices were food and drink, sports, never been there, or Dave from Beer in Front. So unfortunately, Dave didn't get any votes, and I don't know why, because Dave's awesome.
Sad.
That is sad. We're going to do a Dave documentary.
Let's do it. He is amazing.
He is. But 50-50, it was a sports thing and a never been there thing. So I'm finding a lot with these polls that a lot of people, haven't been there, which is kind of cool because, I look at that as going, you know what? There's a lot of people who aren't going places and we get the bus and we're going places. So my recommendation to all of you is don't forget, you only live once. You got to get out and live your life. So
for sure.
Now, I am challenging the world, and I am confident that this particular week we're going to get some more response because I know that there are a lot of wrestling fans out there, even now. And now that Roman Reigns' run as the champion has come to an end and Cody Rhodes has the title, how long do you think Cody Rhodes will be champion? Head over to X now and cast your vote. Now, once again, I ask, are you ready?
Yep.
No! I said, are you ready? Then, for everyone watching or listening around the world, let's get ready to lip sync!
Speaking of the socials, we are present on all of the major socials. The best way to find us is at PFM Adventures. Visit our Linktree for everything PFM Adventures, including our website, merch store, support links, and of course, our YouTube channel. It's there that you can find out more about our journey into schoolie life. And remember, sharing is caring. Encourage others to listen too, and give us a 5-star review on your favorite platform. And most importantly, we'd truly love and appreciate it if you like and subscribe to the podcast and our YouTube channel.
Thanks for joining us. More adventures to come during the day and after dark.
Lights out.